Hi and welcome to the best thing you watch. Welcome back, Chris. We have Chris from Movies and Munchies, Ruben from the Ruby Tuesday for this segment of the YouTube entertainment podcast thing that we do weekly. We're doing Batman, our top 5 favorite Batman live action films, including, I presume, the new Batman, The Batman. And then in our The Best Thing We Watch segment is going to be that extra bit on the podcast, wherever you listen to podcasts. And we'll be talking about the best thing we watch, what we're looking forward to. We're also going to be launching this week something very exciting. Chris and I are collaborating in a Patreon called The Bearded Ones. Because we have beards and that's how creative we can get. So we're going to have a lot of fun with that. We've got some exciting content coming for you. If you would like to support us, that would help. Because obviously, YouTube is a beast that is good at times and not great at times. And so for Chris and I to continue making this a semi-permanent job, we hopefully proper permanent in the future, we need to be creative outside of that. And so we love our communities and we want to give as much back as you guys give to us, which I think is a lot because our communities are great, especially in this segment. I'm loving all the communications between those films that we haven't seen, those lists that are recommended to us. We've had some really interesting different ones. And so that kind of spawned the idea, well, let's do something more personal. Let's do a Patreon where we are going to be talking about this coming week. We're going to be talking about Aliens, all the Aliens movies. We've got some news about that. We're just going to go crazy, and the Predators movies, because Aliens delves into that Aliens versus Predators wonderful movie movies. And so, yeah, we have some story time. So that's going to be interesting. Look out for that. We'll be posting on our various social media platforms as well as our own YouTube channels, so you can see where all that information comes. I'm very excited to do that with Chris. I think that is all the news, like kind of the intro bit. Sorry it took so long this time, but I'm very excited about what's, that coming. But why does Batman hate camping? Chris?
I don't know why.
Poison ivy. Okay, sorry. I'll do another one. That was terrible.
Okay.
Where do Batman's fish live? In the bathtub.
I have no idea. Oh, I like that one. That's terrible, but I love it. Did you Google worst Batman jokes ever again?
I might have. How does Batboy become Batman? He has a bat mitzvah. And that will be all from Ruben today. Sorry, guys. I'll see myself out.
Oh, thank you for joining us. This has been quite the show. We'll see you next week.
We had one viewer, and they've gone.
Forever. So
yeah. They've blocked and deleted. Now typing up essay on why not to watch these guys. Please don't go.
Funny. No.
I'll stop now.
We promise we'll get better. Oh goodness, no, that's funny. I love the terrible Batman jokes. I don't think there's enough of them. Well, there's probably tons of them.
There's so many. It's hard to choose which bad one because they all make your soul die a little.
There you go.
Okay, so it's the week of Batman. The Batman has finally come out after all the delays. A few of the reviewers saw it early. A couple of people leaked their review early. And then Warner Brothers blocked their reviews. I feel like I should say I'm sorry for you, but I'm not. No. But now people are flooding to see it. It's had a great opening day on Thursday. I think it had 28 million just on the previews night. In the US alone. So I think that's a really good standing of it might do well. I really hope it will do well because I feel like it's a film that, even if you're not a Batman fan, that it's a film you should see because it's a good story regardless of the Batman.
Yes.
So we're going to do spoilers for the Batman, and then I guess whenever we talk about this, should we rank it along with it, or should we just talk about the Batman and then go into it? Or do you want to start doing your Batman rankings now, Chris?
No, I think it makes more sense if we talk about it first. Let's just spoil the crap out of it, talk about everything that we like about it. Then we can toss it into where it ranks.
Great. Let's do that.
With that. Okay. Yeah, definitely. So, here is your spoiler warning.
Yeah, massive spoiler warning. So, Chris, you got to see this at a screening. It was a little bit later than everybody else, which I know you were a bit disappointed with, because I was like, Chris, have you seen it yet? Chris, have you seen it yet? And he was like, no. I sound like Emperor Palpatine there.
Ultimate power.
Yeah, no, it was weird. Yeah, it was very weird because most of the national press screenings happened the week before the movie came out. And here in California, and because I went to San Francisco to see this, which is a major market within the United States, it was happening the week of, after everybody else had already seen it, after the embargo had lifted so that reviews could be posted. It was just kind of weird that they did that. But so I made the trek to San Francisco. I took my youngest son with me, and you're absolutely right that outside of a Batman movie, if you want to watch a really good noir thriller, this is amazing. It just happens to have Batman in it. I think that's really what it is. And so I came home and I told my wife, I was like, I think you're really going to enjoy this. Cause she goes along with all of the superhero movies, and she gets a lot of enjoyment out of them, but it's not something like, I geek out over a lot of these. I'm sure you geek out on a lot of these.
For sure.
And so I'm like, we came home and we're like, oh my gosh, you're going to love this. This is going to be great because it brings in so many other elements of film that are outside of just superhero, and that, or comic book. And that's what I think more people need to know about, because this is, I didn't know going in, and I don't know if you knew this or not, but I did not know that it was a noir detective thriller. I thought I was watching a comic book movie. And so right from the opening, when you have the voiceover, the narration of Bruce Wayne talking about the city, and you've got the downpouring rain and everything, I was like, well, okay, this is the kind of movie we're doing then. And it delivered. I think that was the most surprising and awesome thing also, that it met a lot of the expectations.
What did you rank it in the end? Because I stayed away from your review because of spoilers.
I gave it 5 out of 5.
Oh, you did? Okay, so
yes.
It met everything that you wanted. It's a 5-star film. Does it have flaws?
It's not perfect. No, it's not perfect. But that's also part of the, at least for me, when I rank a film, the feeling, the emotion, the enjoyment has to come into that also, not just from technical type of thing, because I'm not just looking at this as somebody who is just going to dissect the film that way. Is this worth watching? Is this worth outputting money to then see? Absolutely it is. I mean, there were some parts for me, which it was funny because I watched a whole bunch of other people's reviews after I'd already done mine. So on like Wednesday and Thursday, I was watching other people's reviews, and I did not realize that Matt Reeves had used David Fincher as kind of a, especially Zodiac and Seven, as kind of some inspiration for building some of this story, because I noticed a lot with the Riddler, the way the Riddler is set up, the way that even a lot of the scenes play out, that they felt they felt a lot like Seven. Now I think Seven did them better in certain aspects, and there were parts of, I really wish, and I don't know about you, but I really wished Paul Dano had not been shown in the diner scene in the trailer, in the movie trailer. Because we go the majority of the movie never seeing his face. Yeah. And how awesome is that to know who this unhinged person is? Because I don't even think there's opening credits other than the Batman, and then, so it would have been, I think, from that kind of thriller angle, from that detective mystery, that you keep that hidden also. So that don't let us know who the Riddler is. Let that be the biggest part of the intrigue as we go along. And then you see this brilliantly unhinged dude who's wreaking havoc.
Mm.
What did you
there were a
got to
few
see it.
parts.
Oh,
Yeah, I took my wife to watch it, and she was like, "Yay, a 3-hour Batman movie!" Woo! And I was like, "It's gonna be good. Come on, it's Matt Reeves. You like his stories. He's not gonna be happy, you know that much. But when is Batman ever happy?
Sure.
No Batman film is happy apart from the way back in the slapstick. Those ones. Yeah. They've all been just dark and broody, and my parents are dead and I'm an orphan. I loved it, but I also had issues with it. I did feel the time in parts, and I thought there were clear scenes that didn't need to be there at all. An example, at the end, we're having Catwoman and Batman say goodbye to each other. And then we have them say goodbye to each other again, because we follow them on their motorbikes all the way to the crossroads, and then they go left and one goes right. But we had already had a really great scene of them saying goodbye to each other, brilliantly lit up, silhouetted. You could have cut to something else, or just of his forlorn looking at a distance, which he does a lot in this movie. And so I definitely felt like there were redundant scenes because you wanted to have them in. Because I'm Batman, it just felt like I've got to add everything that I have. Because we know that they filmed over 200 hours of film making this. They had obviously ample footage, but I just felt like there were moments that they could have cut. That it's long enough. You're probably still going to be 2:45, but there were things that you didn't need to have in there. That's just my perception of it, because I was looking, I was like, well, why is this in the... We've already established this. So, okay, cool. I'm seeing more Batman on a motorbike. No big deal. I'm not hurt by it.
Sure.
But there were moments that stood out to me as well that I weren't expecting to stand out to me. For example, Batman being 95% on the screen. Like, it's not a Bruce Wayne movie at all. There's barely any shots of him. Like, very, very, very few Bruce Wayne. This is a Batman movie, and this is him being like straight out of the Detective Comics. In fact, there are a couple of graphic novels that this film is definitely inspired by, if not recreated some of those scenes on screen. So I think it'll keep fans really happy. But I would say Alfred, I really wanted more of his character. I felt without Alfred, Bruce Wayne, well, Batman doesn't come across as human or having any emotion. Although that is the big part of this Batman, is that he feels like he's conquered all of his emotion. Until that moment where we see him lose himself. He's screaming in his car, in the Batmobile. He's trying to get back to Alfred, and he's like, because for the first time he realizes he has something else left to lose, which is Alfred. He's already said, "You're not my father," and everybody was like, you were going to regret that later. He's actually your father. He raised you from 8 years old. That's your dad. And so I thought that was a good bit of emotional intent, which was definitely needed, because that was one of my issues that I had with the film, is that I didn't know really who to root for. I root for Batman because he's Batman. I root for Catwoman because she's Catwoman, but she's not really the good guy. And then we have Gordon. But everybody else in the city seems to be corrupt in some way. All of the cops, all of the good people are bad in some way. And so when you have a city that bad, but you're really not showing who the good guy is, and Batman is stepping over that line occasionally, and Catwoman potentially is a bad guy, you're like, who am I rooting for here? The person I was rooting for most was probably the little kid. I was like, Batman, you better protect that kid. Which is why I think Christopher Reeve, that's funny, Matt Reeves had that, because like Superman, woohoo! Matt Reeves had that in there, because there was that little recognition of he's an orphan, I'm an orphan, we're going to have the same lives. I really need to protect this kid because I don't want him to go through what I've gone through. And that was all said without words. That was brilliantly done of showing, not telling.
Oh, yeah.
99% of this film is showing, not telling. You know, it's all broody. I have to give it to Patterson, how you act with a mask on 99% of the film and still get some emotion across. It is very, very difficult. I saw him with an interview recently where he said you can do masks, but when it covers up your eyebrows, you think you act with your eyes, but actually it is your eyebrows if you're not saying dialogue. And so he was hoping that his chin and maybe the movement of his eyes were able to portray some of that emotion that he was trying to get across, because how else do you act? Because the rest of the time you're just Batman. So then could you just have a lookalike like him just doing stunt work? And so that brings up, is it Patterson or is it stuntman? But you'll be happy to know that all the roly-polies are him. He had extensive stunt roly-poly work done. Okay, I've rambled a bit.
No. As you're talking about that, like, I hadn't thought about eyebrows, because that makes a lot of sense. That that helps to convey a lot, because if you can't see
that's your expression.
Yeah.
If you can't see, I mean, how much are you seeing? So it's that, no eyebrows. Yeah,
sure. But there's also, I mean, you don't want to discount body language, because I mean, think about Mandalorian.
No, that's true.
Yeah. I mean,
absolutely.
Din Djarin, there's no facial expression for most of it. You know what I mean? And so just the like that, or the just that little bit gives so much. And I think, I mean, within this, something that really stood out to me, and I didn't know, I would have to rewatch a ton of the Batmans just to see, but I'm not sure that I've ever seen another Bruce Wayne done this way, where he is an introvert, that he is just
this is the first time they've done that. No, it definitely hasn't been done this way before.
And that,
other than comics. Yeah.
Okay. Well, see, in that, it endeared me to him, because I didn't need big, flashy, over exuberant, hey, look at me and all my money type of thing. I mean, I understand that the reason for doing that, especially if you're trying to get away from your alter ego, you know what I mean? If you're trying to provide separation, even for perception coming in, there are people could be like, well, that couldn't be Batman because look at him. I mean, he's super rich and he acts the rich part. Whereas here we have loner, I mean, Bruce Wayne is downtrodden. He's just in himself. He's not somebody who goes out. I mean, heck, even at the funeral scene, I mean, most of the time he doesn't even speak to anybody, amidst, he's having thoughts and he's having emotions, that we see that come through, but he's not putting it out there, and I think a lot of the other Batmans that we've seen, the other Bruce Waynes we've seen, are done completely differently. They would have been outspoken. They would have flaunted their money or their power, their influence, all of that. And here he is. I mean, you can see that when they know who he is, I mean, people are tripping over themselves to accommodate him, and he doesn't try and go after any of that. So
if we get more, I think that will become more of it, because part of the story is this is only 2 years in, and he is completely obsessed with being vengeance. I'm vengeance. But towards the end, he realizes that he needs to be much more than that. He needs to be the hope. That when the kid grabs his arm, he realizes the hope, and having a hero, that symbol mustn't stand for vengeance, because even those guys, they are repeated, I am vengeance, which is almost like the Riddler teaching the Batman a lesson of what he needed to learn. In a roundabout way, he was helping the Batman come to terms with what it is he actually is, more than he needs to be. Couple of things I want to talk about. The Riddler,
yes,
who I thought was excellent. As a character, I think we can talk about him. The score and the color palette. So we talk about the score. I thought a lot of the times it carried the film. Like, it often said what was happening before it happened. Not to its detriment,
No.
just because once you got there, the music and the tone that it was going for complemented what was happening on screen. But then you have, this is hard to do, and I don't think the other Batman films, I don't know if it was camera work or technique or what Matt Reeves had or what lenses he used, but sometimes with Batman films, they go for very, very dark, and you will even see your TV sometimes can't handle the dark, so you get these patterns of lines that kind of wave. It's so dark, and then you get that really that mist fuzz that your TV just can't handle it. And even like the Christopher Nolan trilogy, the Tim Burton, they struggle with that. This one, it's really dark, but because it has those rustic neon orange glow and those red tones, the dark stands out, but you can see everything that's happening. And I just thought, wow, what an ingenious way to do it. Favorite shot of the entire film was him walking through the water with the red flare and the people following behind him. And I don't know if it was just my imagination, but I swear the people made a bat symbol as they were walking out.
I would have to rewatch. I don't know, because I remember I was looking to see what it was going to be, if it was going to make some kind of symbol, and I just don't remember. But
it's probably my imagination, but I just thought that was cool. Beautifully shot. What did you think of the look?
Oh my goodness, yes. All of the cinematography was just. I loved the variation that he used within there, but kept it consistent, so that you never had like just this weird gimmick that was thrown in. That when he employed something, he did it several times. And then that made it very effective in conveying the emotion or just the excitement of a scene or the drama of a scene. I mean, so you take like the building top, the rooftop, or not really rooftop, but where the bat signal is, where they have, where they go. And sometimes you have, just some of these, we've seen them online, those iconic shots of the city skyline, and it's at either dusk or sunrise, something like that, where it is the oranges and the reds. And so you see it's not totally as gritty as it always could be. There's hope within this, but you have then, whether it's just Batman or Batman and Gordon or Batman and Catwoman standing there, you have them silhouetted a little soft on the focus, because the background has become the real focal point, even though they're using them, up close. I loved the use of all the different camera techniques within, take an action scene or whatever, how we will go from very up close, very shallow depth of focus, where parts of his face are in focus and everything else is just blown out with softness, to then not sitting on that for an overly long period of time. Yes, we get it. We're intimate now with this shot, and then it transitions, and it could go from a medium wide shot, or even, some of those following shots that we have on like him on the motorcycle or in the, in the Batmobile, where the camera, you can totally tell they've rotoscoped out the actual camera, or they're following along just on a set crane type of thing. However they did that, and then it throws us inside, and then it throws us to looking back at the character as they drive. It was, and as I say that, it sounds like there's so many quick cuts, and it didn't do that though. That was the other thing, that they sat on things long enough so that you get a feel for what's going on, so that you're immersed in the scene. And take even one of the beginning fight scenes in the subway, where it's the rain, which also is just a great setup, from the whole voiceover talking about how, the city, the criminals are afraid that he's in the shadows. The
symbol and the narration of that, of what he is so good.
So good. Yeah. So then when he does come out of that, I mean, because the one dude who's got only the half painted face, I guess maybe he hasn't totally become part of the gang. I don't know what's going on with him, but
the initiation was his initiation.
So he knows, and he's like freaking out. You know what I mean? But the way that the camera then follows, and when Batman, I mean, he takes out first that one dude, the leader dude, but then we don't have to see the blows land. You know what I mean? The camera locks down, and we see Batman going up and down and doing the punches. And just briefly, the sound design, especially in like that scene,
oh my gosh, you felt that
accentuate the thuds and the force and the motion that he does. So you hear the and the and just it like it was like boom, you know, so you're right there. But then the camera, after he's done that and he's like, I am vengeance, you know, then it pulls back to show us the whole subway scene and the fight take place as they all try and jump him like that. And so just, I think all of the varied camera angles, the camera techniques that were employed here, it lended itself to so much visual interest also, because like you said, you know, this is showing, not telling a lot of the time. And so it's really just, it's letting us be immersed in this, giving us the right emotion, you know, and figuring out not figuring out. I mean, it's just, it's telling us the story, and we are just like, at least me, I was getting sucked in each time, you know, despite there being weirdness or something like that. And the score, even the inclusion of Ave Maria throughout the movie was, very clever. It was an emotional trigger, you know what I mean? It was also a clue for what was coming or whatever, but just the different ways that it was presented, you know, sometimes it was very subtle. And then even you have, I mean, Paul Dano at one point singing it. I mean, it was very effective. Yeah.
Talking about Paul Dano, I definitely think he watched Batman Forever and took a little bit of the craziness from Jim Carrey as the Riddler, because there are moments where I think it happens a couple of times where his plan hasn't gone like he wanted. It's like, this is not the way I was wanted to go, and he's losing it, and he's gone from calculated, thought-provoking, has all the plans, to now like crazy, and you're like, whoa, this guy is really unhinged. And you realize, you know, I guess technically you could be alongside his plan, except for the way that he executes it. Yeah. So he's bringing about the truth of the underbelly, the darkness of Gotham, and bringing it to light, which is good. So, you know, that stuff is just going to get worse if it's not brought to light. But the way he does it, obviously not great. But it's interesting, the story of his followers that are inspired by that. And you're wondering, you know, what is it that you're trying to say with this movie? What is it, the story that you're trying to tell? Who is the heroes? Because the heroes are technically not good. I'm not talking about Batman, but like the people that are like the law enforcement, the lawyers, the politicians, you know, all those very reminiscent. Power. Yeah, all very reminiscent of what we're going through now. You know, all those in power that control our lives and we don't have any say over. And for that kind of stuff, whenever we get in the news, you know, on reflection, of a politician who has 2 houses using tax, you know, that kind of thing, because we have that here in the UK. And I feel like people are going to relate to the story that way, and it gets you emotionally engaged when it gets you thinking, yeah, I get why he's doing that. I don't like what he's doing or how he's doing it, but I understand. And how much it would take for society to be pushed to the brim to where they start doing that sort of thing. Like, I guess that's when you start getting right. So it feels like a very real story. And I would say it's probably the most realistic Batman I've ever seen. He feels more like a man in a suit this time around than I've ever felt. Like, even you were talking about that fight. Like, he doesn't win all the fights like he's fighting. They get in a good whack with a pole and a punch to his face and a kick to to his rib cage, but he just keeps going. Can I just also say there is still an amount of believability that you have to push aside, like the fact that he's bulletproof. He gets sprayed with an Uzi. I know he has armor plates, but you get sprayed with an Uzi like medium range, you're going down. Even if you're going to get bruised and broken ribs, internal bleeding probably. And I'm not sure how he hasn't caught one ricochet on that chin yet. How he's got like a force field over his mouth. Yeah, I mean, for all Batman movies with all the gun spraying and stuff, we put that sort of logic aside. Yeah. I do feel like I'm missing somewhat the more fantastical side of Batman. We've had 4 films now which have been a very real look at a man in a suit. Whereas before with Tim Burton's films, they were more fantastical. We don't need to talk about Batman Forever or Batman and Robin, because those are just like someone was high and then made Batman and Robin. But I would like to see if society or fans of Batman could embrace a more fantastical look at Batman once again. Because I think in the future, we're probably going to get a Batman of the future. And that is a very vibrant, colorful, very dark story as well. But it would have to be a young Batman. Batman of the future is very well loved, at least the animated story. So that's good. That while I was watching this film, I was like, this is great, but this is very, very dark. And I do feel like it's going to be a select fan base of Batman people that will enjoy this. There'll be some that are like, oh, this is so dark. Is there going to be hope? And there is some along the way, but you have to get there. Like at the end, you there is hope, I think, because I think he's changing as the Batman. I think it's written that way, which is great. It did remind me of other Batman movies as well, particularly The Dark Knight Rises, with the city being flooded, that kind of thing. It reminded me of that was going on. There's one fight scene, and I think you would have seen it in the trailer, where it's in darkness and he's just coming up to see Falcone, and it's just muzzle spray and it's and it's darkness and just punching.
Gosh.
And it's brilliant and it's heart stopping, and you're like, oh my gosh, that scene took ages to film and choreograph, because they actually filmed it in the dark, and it was up to the stuntmen to know where they were and what they were doing, and in between they would use the phone torches to okay, we're gonna get this. And Patterson has, with the help of Christopher Nolan's Batman, what's his name, Bale. He went to Patterson and told him, you must have a zip put in place for your man parts, because they didn't for me, and when you gotta go, you gotta go. And so there was a little zip, thankfully, for Patterson to be able to go and wee, because
could you imagine?
they were shooting terrible. 14 hours in the dark and torches, and you were like, I don't imagine undoing all of that. Yeah.
No. I just think Jim Carrey and Jeff Daniels, just go, man.
just go. It's so warm. Gave me more respect for each scene and the toil of just producing one little scene like that, which is why it took so long to film. Yeah.
I'm so glad you brought up that scene, because the strobing effect of the muzzle flash to capture the that within the using the gunfire as beats within the soundtrack, or within the score there, to enhance everything that's going on. I mean, that was just a crazy scene. And I want to say, as I was watching it, that I thought I've seen something like that before. Now, that doesn't take away from the enjoyment by any means.
No, we've definitely seen versions of that. Yeah.
Something like that. But it was still, I mean, it fit perfectly within there. The tone, the emotion, the action, the beat points right there, it was needed in that moment. And so it was there was no complaint about that, just the way that they did that. And I can imagine that it took forever to film because, I mean, when you see it actually executed, that is, oh yeah, it is utter darkness, only to, and could you imagine you getting all the way towards the end and then you miss your cue, and then everybody like, okay, we're doing real live rounds this time. I mean, I'm done with you. Yeah. But yeah, we're going to talk about the Batmobile.
For sure.
I love the Tumbler. I think that is such a cool vehicle from the Dark Knight trilogy. I think, though, this muscle car outfitted with some kind of turbo engine with, a jet on the back of it.
I mean, you hear it spooling up when he's in trouble and he starts it up. It's really the first time we've seen it.
Yeah.
And like the hairs in the back of my neck, because it just, if you're in a cinema that has the sound up and it's like, you're like, oh my gosh.
Well, we got, as we see different aspects of the Batcave, we see the engine sitting there, and you can see how massive of an engine it actually is. Or you see, and you see pieces of the Batmobile just kind of up on jacks or whatever throughout there. But then when we get to that scene and it becomes the chase, like I was blown away, like, cause I've seen, within the trailer, I'm like, well, okay, that's kind of a cool Batmobile. It's a little weird. It doesn't really look like anything we've ever seen. I don't know how I feel totally about this. I think it is my favorite Batmobile now, though. That's I don't know. I mean, it's obviously more viewings is going to, play into that. And that'll also help just, because you think, I mean, we have the ability to watch Dark Knight Rises, Batman Begins, Batman, whatever, all of these for years and years and years.
Yeah.
And so the rewatching
of it will tell.
Yes, exactly. But that chase scene, though, that car chase as he is chasing Penguin, holy good gravy. That is just, I mean, it was so intense. And the whole, I mean, I know we saw it in the trailer and that also bums me out a little bit.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it didn't diminish my excitement. And maybe that's because I stayed away from most of the trailers. You know what I mean? Yeah. I saw the very first trailer, and then I got the really long Catwoman trailer whenever I went and saw whatever movie I saw. But the Penguin laughing hysterically because he believes he's gotten out of it.
I did it.
Yeah. And then, just in that whole shot of backwards, looking behind him as he's celebrating and the flames and everything.
Massive
and then
explosion.
Just to have just monster. And we've already seen the other side of that as he's racing through and Batman is going up that ramp. And so we know we're going to see the conclusion of that part, but just the way that it was cut together. I actually liked how there was a little bit of separation in time, because really we should have seen that jump or him come through the flames much earlier. You know what I mean? Like if you play out scene by scene by scene, he's already up in the air going through the flames when we flash back around to Penguin, but it gives us the opportunity to experience it now from his perspective, to then see this coming in, and then the sheer shock and disappointment and terror and like, what the crap. And then just,
he's lucky he didn't kill the Penguin with that.
Yeah.
The roll of that car, man. Jeez.
Oh my gosh. Well, and then to have the camera, upside down.
Yeah.
Just that whole shot.
That's the poster shot, isn't it, from the trailer? Yeah, where he's walking.
Yeah.
And the Matt Reeves Batman theme played throughout the film that comes in softly and then it builds up. By the time I got to the end, I was like, that's Batman's theme tune now. Like it's so cleverly done. But also, doesn't it make you think of a death march or funeral march the whole way through it? It's like, it's so dark. It feels like boom, 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 boom. Like, I was like, yeah. I would say this is the least stealthiest Batman we've ever had. This, if you're playing a game, you would class this as the tank build. So you have a Batmobile, which is a muscle car, which has got a jet engine. Is not like you can't
Nothing
sneak
quiet
up,
about it.
right?
No.
That you're gonna know that's coming, and even like the intimidation when he starts it, reminds me of is it Batman versus Superman where he has intimidation mode on his car, which is hilarious. Anyway, and then every time Batman is coming, but slowly, you hear those footsteps. Obviously, it's accentuated. So the first fight scene we see in the subway, that whole long before we even see him, not stealthy, but very fearful, like adding to like, what the hell is that coming up the stairs? And then they're laughing like, look at this man dressed in a bat suit, until he breaks one of their jaws, and then they're not laughing anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
But he does that again and again, I think a couple of times in the film, where it's just, and it just feels like his suit is heavy, but also the most movable we've ever seen Batman. Because we know, like from Val Kilmer, he was talking about how when he turned, he had to physically turn his whole body because he couldn't move the cowl of the suit. And Bale had to physically move his shoulders because he couldn't move his head. Which very much limits your acting ability. And at least here, when you see Batman fight the Catwoman, you see how versatile his body is then, because she's jumping all over the place, flick-flacking, but he's doing all those quick movements, which you've not seen before in the live-action Batman film.
When I think if we get subsequent films from Reeves and with Pattinson, I think we might get more stealth as we go along, because you figure too, this story is him vengeance. Yeah. So it's all of the intimidation. It's all of that. You know what I mean? And so that is a threatening thing to hear it coming, versus maybe now that he's kind of understood that he doesn't need to be that as much. His role is shifting, I
carry on.
One, I don't know, it's not really a weakness, but it was something that at least I noticed in the film. I thought the film was wrapping up earlier than it did.
Yeah, it had like a Lord of the Rings Return of the King 3 ending sort of thing.
Yeah. Now, I'm glad for the rest of the ending, because, I mean, like when they capture Paul Dano, I thought it was over. Now that's not as satisfying, I mean, by any means, because there's still another climax to come, and that becomes very exciting in that whole fight, that whole action sequence with the town flood, the city flooding and everything. But
but I also thought that was coming to an end there.
Yeah. And so there were those points where it was like, oh no, we'll keep going. Okay.
And it was a big scene, like there was still the big scene to come, and it felt like that was coming to the end. You were like, oh.
Yeah. What were you going to say?
I don't know. It's gone now.
Okay. Well, maybe it'll trigger.
Maybe.
Can we talk about the end for a minute?
Yes. The Riddler and the laughing.
Yeah. Okay. So Barry Cowan he was like mentioned as, or like credited as like some cop or something like that, even though he's what we presume to be Joker. I mean, because we can see the smile on the face within there and everything else. I did find it interesting that he was one of the main people in the end credits as credited. It wasn't in the scrolling ones. He was in the ones that flash first. Maybe a very unpopular opinion. I don't know. I'm tired of the Joker.
No, I agree. 100%. It's one of the things I said to my wife when I walked out. I don't want another Joker Batman. There are so many villains to choose from. We've had great versions. Nicholson, Heath Ledger, incredible Jokers. Can we please do a different villain?
And that's what bothered me, I think, the most. Like if it's just kind of the tease or whatever, and it's going to continue on, and he's going to be still within Arkham and not really as a central figure or even a central villain, I think I might be okay with him being like just mentioned here and there if they give us a different villain altogether. But I'm done. give us some time away from the Joker.
Because I thought
You
the
know,
Riddler was good. That was different.
Yeah.
Villains I don't want again. Poison Ivy, Bane, Scarecrow. Like, stay away, and obviously the Joker. Stay away from those. There's a cornucopia of ridiculous villains and really great ones that I'm really hoping they do the Court of Owls. There's a storyline there that hasn't been done properly in live action, which is really ruthless. And I think Batman's son as well. In Batman Begins, we get who's trained by the League of Assassins, and in the comics and animations later, he has Damien, who is his son, who's also from the League of Assassins. And eventually they are pitted against each other, and it's that whole conflict of what does that mean? Because, whenever he's had a Robin, they've always done that because Robin is good and much lighter than Batman. And Robin eventually...
Is Jiminy Cricket.
Yeah, exactly. Or Robin eventually becomes Nightwing, and then there's a new Robin, and he corrupts him. In the way of, like, you can't really have a life outside of Batman, which isn't really true. But that's the way he sees it, because it's, his whole life.
Yeah.
So I really hope that's not the case. I hope that was just a thing of the person, we can be friends in here and I'll help you escape. And Batman, we see a little clip of Batman catching both of them and putting them back in jail, and then something else happens. That it could be as simple as that, as fixing it. Catwoman? What did you think of her?
I loved Zoe Kravitz. I thought, I want more of her. I wanted more of her backstory. You know what I mean? Like, we got little hints here and there. And then, we obviously get her, why she is against Falcone, that makes sense. Just as her dad and what he did to her mom, all of that. I liked their dynamic between the two. I think what stood out to me also is how damaged that Selena Kyle is.
Yeah.
That she's she is a wounded person also. Now, that doesn't mean that she's weak by any means. We see how fierce she is and how powerful she is. But you see that there is, she's carrying a lot of baggage, and that makes her a very parallel to Bruce Wayne, carrying all of this baggage, hiding behind the mask, doing things that they feel they should to get by in the world for whatever reason that is. And so I want more of her. I liked them together. I think that's the other thing, that obviously we did not see Selena Kyle and Bruce Wayne together. And I'm not sure that Bruce Wayne really, as Bruce Wayne, at least with what we've been shown, is ready for any type of relationship.
That would last like 2 minutes. He wouldn't be able to handle talking.
He's not there emotionally or anything else. And maybe that's where we'll see him go.
Yeah.
Because now that he's softened a little bit, his worldview has changed some, and then he's, what we believe is, he is becoming or seeing the value of Alfred in his life.
Yeah.
And what that means to changing him as a person. And so then, you see some emotional growth there, which then allows them to maybe to come together, because at some point, if they're, there's an attraction there between the two. But Bruce Wayne, and then translated into Batman, still doesn't necessarily know how to deal with that.
Yeah.
And needs to keep her at the arm's length. And so I think at some point there can be we can work together. We can be together, maybe. I don't know. What'd you think of her?
Yeah, I thought she was really great. I'm a huge fan of Michelle Pfeiffer. I think she's still my favorite Catwoman. I thought she just personified that role just perfectly. But Zoe Kravitz, she's, I think, found her feet in a role that is hard to fill, to be human but also badass. The physicality of it, as far as I can see, because we see much more of her, it looks like she can handle herself. But we've seen her in a few other action roles, and we know she can handle herself, so that's interesting. But we've also seen her in really dramatic, deep thinking roles. I think there was one on Netflix recently called Kimmy. Pretty sure that was her. About that
HBO Max,
yeah.
Well, at least in the US.
Oh, yes, yeah. And that was interesting to see her play with some like more deep psychological stuff. And so I was looking forward to her in this role. But yeah, I thought the chemistry between them was there without it being forced. It just felt natural.
Mm.
But for me, the best chemistry on screen was between Jim Gordon, and the Batman. I just thought they had found something that was so good, like not chemistry, romance, but as in like respect for each other. The way they talk, they spend time on screen when they're at on a scene together. Seeing Jim Gordon and the Batman was like, it was as if I was watching one of the great Batman detective. So we have those, I think there's 5 seasons of the Batman in the 90s. Yeah. But that's very well loved and sought after. You know, you can buy them on various versions now. But it felt like a couple of those scenes you were watching directly, like as if it was translated into live action. That's what those scenes were, you know. The broodiness and the dark voice. I'm glad that the voice wasn't as bad as Bale's, because sometimes Bale's, it's hard to understand what he's saying because he's so deep.
Oh, yeah.
And considering how much dialogue there is for the Batman, because we've never had the Batman speak that much before because he's on screen 95% of the time. Yeah, I thought that was the best relationship. Did you find that, or what did you think?
I really did like it. I loved the mutual respect there. And we saw it a little bit. Think of like the Dark Knight trilogy where you have Gary Oldman. I mean, he invites Batman in to investigate and to see things. But in this, I mean, you see Gordon defending and standing up. And I mean, gosh, even when Batman is accused, you know, in the surrounded by all those cops, and you know, he's whispering, almost muttering under his breath, you know, you're gonna punch me. Now there
could have pulled your
there
punch.
was a point. Yeah, exactly. In that line delivery, Jeffrey Wright he got a little, I don't know, there was a little bit of bravado in his voice or something that it actually made me chuckle when I was watching it, because it went from him delivering his lines to almost a comical delivery. It was very weird, and it was only in that little brief moment, and no other time in the film did I get any sense of that. And so I don't know if he had like almost this swagger to his voice, which was really weird. But I loved him, you know, being on the scene, them two together, and, you know, the cops like, you can't be here. And Gordon just gives the look, or is just like, come on, or the pulling of aside, you know, to have a conversation, to discuss. I mean, they were colleagues to some degree. And that, I think, I don't know. Yeah, that chemistry really did work also. I liked that we got to see more of him, because that's always been something, at least through the Dark Knight series and then into this one, the relationship between Gordon and Batman. You know, that it's there is that respect, because at least if we go from the Nolan trilogy, we understand why Bruce Wayne, now Batman, has such respect for Gordon and what that relationship from a very young age was. And to even just now, there's just a mutual respect, and he knows that he is not a corrupt cop, that he's one of the good ones in a sea of bad, you know, and it's not just the cops in the city. I mean, good grief, it's almost everybody of power. And, you know, to have somebody that he can count on that way. And correct me if I'm wrong, but there was like some moments where even that Gordon is almost chastising Batman a little bit, just on what he can or can't do, or what, like how he should.
No, he absolutely does do that. Yeah, he feels very strongly. What I get from his character, feels very strongly about his convictions, but also has the sense of who Batman is. So when he's straying off that path, you're like, this isn't the way. You're not going to do this now. But then at the same time, Batman were like, we're going to do this my way. Because he says to him, you won't get in there with a warrant. And, he's just like, And you're like, yeah, Batman doesn't need no warrant.
Yeah. Oh, goodness.
Well, as we've talked almost for an hour on the Batman, this could be just an episode of the Batman. Should we go to our number 5 top
rankings?
Yeah, yeah. So, what would you class as your favorite top 5, or at your number 5 spot?
Before again, I am going to give a qualification.
Okay.
We've only seen, at least I've only seen, I haven't been able to be to the theater like I know some people have. I've only seen the Batman once. So it's, I have to take that into consideration.
Yep,
you know what I mean in this, because this is not an end all be all list by any means,
change,
because yeah, absolutely. My appreciation could go way up. I don't see it going down really, but it could go way up, and I could, pick out more things. I obviously will pick out more things that I enjoy, and then I'll also pick out some things that probably begin to bother me, upon future viewings. But that being said, Batman Begins.
Okay.
Christian Bale, the first in the Dark Knight trilogy. I do like the origin story. I think, what's his name? Liam Neeson is great in this. And just, I enjoy that. It is weird that they recast from Katie Holmes at the beginning to Maggie Gyllenhaal in the second. But
yeah.
Whatever.
Who knows what that was about?
Yeah. I don't know. It's still like, if I think about the Dark Knight trilogy, it's the one that I watched least. Only, and not because it's bad by any means. It's just, I think I don't, kind of like Spider-Man, I don't need to see as many origin stories anymore.
Yeah.
I don't want as many origin, you know what I mean? Like, we've seen it done so many times that I don't need to see that necessarily. I just be the superhero that you are, and let's go on with the case.
Okay.
But yeah, so I'll do Batman Begins as my number 5. How about you?
Yeah, I'll go Batman Returns for my number 5. The one with Michelle Pfeiffer, mostly because of Michelle Pfeiffer and the Penguin.
Danny DeVito.
Yes, it's creepy, and some of the things that some of the dialogue in that film, as a child, when I was really young, when I first watched that, I didn't get it. And later on in life, I was like, some of the things you're saying now are pretty risque. It's classic Tim Burton. I mean, oh my gosh, all of the sets, everything just screams horror, like noir horror. But it's so much fun. So that's why it's my number 5.
Nice. My number 4, Batman with Michael Keaton. I mean, Jack Nicholson, so good in there. I mean, it is comic-esque. You know what I mean? It's still that serious, but not as serious as the more recent films. But and I liked Michael Keaton, and I'm excited to see, we hear that he's coming back. He'll make the appearance in the Flash movies, or Flash movie, something like that. So that's, Michael Keaton is just a wonderful actor.
He's great.
And so him in that, I think.
Yeah. I'm actually going to match you in number 4 being the Batman for all of the same reasons. Yeah. Which is why it sits above Returns. As much as I love Returns, and I'd probably watch Returns more, I think, like, if I have to rank them, I would say the better film is the Batman. Batman. 1989? Is that right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Cool. What is your number 3?
All right. Probably an unpopular opinion with a lot of people. I don't realize how much people begin to dislike this film, but I really enjoy it. It's Dark Knight Rises. No, yeah, okay, yeah.
I understand the fun.
I enjoy it a lot,
but I just see the flaws of it.
Oh, sure. But I don't know. There's so much. I don't know. I'm not sure if I took it as a standalone movie outside of anything else, would it be as good? No, but then also it's not meant to be. You know what I mean? It is a third in a trilogy. So it's wrapping up a storyline, and it's building off of what has already come. I like Tom Hardy as Bane.
I don't understand what he's saying.
Yes,
I don't know. I literally can't understand what he's saying when he talks. All I hear is, I'm like, I thought Batman was bad, but oh my goodness. Like, pull down your mask and let me.
Nobody cared until I put on.
Yeah, I just. Yeah. I was born in the dark. Were you? You were born with a muffler. I know that much. But.
Oh, the fire rises.
I do like him as Bane. I would like a standalone Bane movie. I think if you read the comics, it's a really interesting story, and again, much darker. I just can't get over 3,000 policemen being underground for 3 months, and them looking clean shaven and stuff when they come out. I just there's just so much. I was like,
they were dropping water down the little holes.
I'm sure they smashed up
sanitation and they're being sanitary, and it's just.
No.
But come on, Batman flying the nuclear weapon out in, or whatever it was, the giant bomb.
Yeah, I hadn't got there yet. How did he survive?
Oh, because he had autopilot.
Sure.
He ejected way before it was established.
No. He got out, but he didn't have enough. The radius of the fallout. I don't know.
But see, he went under the water because while it would be a concussive thing, the explosion happens above the water. So it's a different effect. The water is a much more insulating type of thing from that blast.
I'm no nucleologist, so
don't poo on my parade here.
I'll quote you on that, Chris.
That is science, everybody.
Fact.
You heard it here first by Chris. It's fact because I said it. There you go.
I think I'm more miffed with Nolan that he teased that little bit he teased at the end, which is the movie I'd love to see Bale and Gordon Lovehead as doing that film together. Love it, because I think that would have been great together at that time. Now it's been so long it won't work, but I was just like, why tease that? What's the purpose of putting that in if you're not going to do something? Like, ugh.
It is mean.
It's very mean. But no, I get it. That's your number 3. I'm probably going to put the Dark Knight at my number 3.
Really?
So I know this will probably be most people's number 1. I love it because of Heath Ledger's performance. I don't love it because it's so dark. It really takes me in a dark place. Like, I thought the Batman was dark, but for me, the tone of this film is much darker. It just feels like he loses, and it breaks the Batman. So much so, when we see the Batman in Dark Knight Rises, he's just a mess of a man. And the fact that he gets whooped by Bane, I don't think he should have. Like, if he was in his prime and been able, he would have dealt with that. He would have planned better. But he gets his back broken because he just wasn't up for it.
Yeah.
The Joker destroyed him. He lost his love. It's dark, and so as much as I love it, it's not a film I can rewatch. Like, immediately when that film starts, you get that tone of it just carries on through the bank heist and the robbery. An amazing 11 minutes of opening, just genius. It's brilliant. But yeah, I was like, okay, I love this film, but I don't want to watch it that often.
Fair enough. It is dark. I give you that. All right, my number 2, The Batman, with Robert Pattinson. For everything that we just
spent an hour talking about,
and it could raise. I mean, and I heard some of the hype beforehand of the people who had seen it. I saw a couple of very early reactions on Twitter, and nothing else. Like, it didn't give any context for it or anything else. It was just like, this might rival The Dark Knight. And I'm like, no, this no, I'm not sure that that's going to do. I mean, you're holding up like performances, especially like Heath Ledger, of like, wow, you're going against, no. And then when I walk out, I'm like, yeah, okay, yep, I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
So okay, that's my
I'm
number
with
2.
you on my number 2. That is the Batman, and like you, it could raise, but I don't think it will, because obviously I mentioned that the few flaws that I have with it.
Sure.
But it's also an amazing film, and a few months' time I'll probably watch it again. But it's, I mean, for example, when you watch the original Dark Knight, even though it was quite long, 2.5 hours, you probably wouldn't have minded going straight back into the cinema and watching it again. For me, watching the Batman, I was like thinking that it's 3 hours and going straight back in. I don't think I could have done that. I was like, no. But maybe tomorrow, I might be like, okay, yeah, let's go watch it again. See,
Yeah.
if I see something else, I'm going to look around in the background. I don't know if you do that when you watch a film. What have you missed? What are those extras doing this time? I want to see like the creation. I enjoyed it the first time, but now I'm going to see why it does what it does.
Yeah, you get so many more nuances that were there, that you took in, that affected your emotion for the film, but you don't necessarily know why. And now, yeah, that's the mark of a great film, regardless of what it is. Yeah. When you can go back in and you pick up new things that you're like, ooh, all right, I've seen this 12 times. How did I not see that?
Exactly. Yeah. Great stuff. So your number 1.
Yep. Is The Dark Knight.
That's what I figured.
And I just rewatched it.
And it is so good, right?
2 weeks ago. Yeah. And I think some of it, like the score, the sound, you know what I mean, plays really into it. Like you start, just the opening sequence. Yeah. I mean, it's just so good. The beautiful, the IMAX scenes that he uses, to just show the scale of the buildings and just how big and bright it is.
That truck scene always,
but it always
makes my hair stand on the back.
Oh
like
my
goes,
gosh!
Whoa, go. Yeah, my goodness. Yeah.
Yes. Just so good. But it's the end. Every single time gives me chills and just has
with
this
the speech,
because it's meant to. I mean, that's the speech. Yeah, and the slow-mo kind of. Him running towards the bat cycle thing,
and then the scores coming in.
It's everything is building to this, and it's just, I think in that moment, I mean, it's very powerful, and I love, even what it is that he's becoming what the city needs. I mean, because he's holding up Harvey. So that it doesn't destroy everything that had been built, and willing to be something that he really isn't,
if needs be.
Yeah. Just a heroic moment there, and selfless within that. And so anyway, okay.
Mine's actually Batman Begins, because it's unusual, and I'm so done with Batman's parents dying, which is unusual again for me to have this as my number 1. But I love the building of a character, seeing them from scratch, going to what they're at the end. Those montages with the ninja, I probably my favorite bit of the film, where he's learning to be the Batman. It's like going to army, right? They break you down from what you were before and build you up to something else. But then he takes that with all his knowledge and still comes out with the man he was raised to be by his parents. And so he won't go that extra step at destroying the city. He wants to save the city, which is why we get that Liam Neeson scene with him, on the tram ride. It's really epic. But of course, you have all the is the Scarecrow? Is that? I'm pretty sure that's right. I mean, all of that going on at the same time with where people see him with the red eyes, and the Scarecrow's put his mist over the city.
Oh no! What is that? Is that one?
Is that Dark Knight? Am I getting them?
No, it is.
It is Batman Begins, right?
No, it is, because you're right. Yeah, it is Batman Begins. Yeah.
So
good.
You have the creation of that first villain, I guess. But then we have all the villains come down, like with the ninjas, and he's fighting the underground. He's really got his work out, and it's the first time we start seeing him put his suit together with the Kevlar. It works on so many levels. So I have a lot of fun. So that's my number one.
Okay, well, I think that's going to wrap up our discussion. I mean, we've hit a lot there, don't you think? I mean, we've talked all the things about the Batman there.
Yep.
Don't forget, please. Well, first, you know what? If you're listening on the podcast, rate, review for anywhere that you happen to listen on that platform. But if you're watching us on YouTube, thank you so much. We do appreciate your support there. Always, share, subscribe, like, comment. What is your top Batman? What is your ranking of the Batman movies? I mean, we would love to know where does the new one sit in this? Does it even make your top 5? We welcome all of your comments. I mean, we love to hear from you. We love interacting with you. Ruben with the Ruby Tuesday, Chris with Movies and Munchies, and don't forget, coming very soon this week, some Patreon exclusivity for you to partake in if you choose, which we hope you will, because we've got some good stuff planned. All right. I think, we'll catch you next week.